Hey guys, welcome to my channel Mavericks Arcade. My name is Chuck and today we're going to be talking about the Ultimarc U-Trak device. Simply, it's just a nice little trackball here. Now, one thing that makes this different is a flush mount trackball. So unlike a lot of other trackballs where you see this big black square and a trackball sitting in the middle, this one mounts from underneath. Now, I do have a video showing how to set that up. So I'm going to put my headphones on here so I can hear the audio and follow along. Here we go.
Alright, so now we're doing the trackball installation. So you can see I got my trackball here. I got the top side of my cover, or my control panel here. So what we're going to do, first thing, we're going to flip this control panel over. You can see the bottom here, a little bit splintery. I'll just cut it. So again, what we're going to do, we're going to use our little rag to make sure it's pretty cleaned off.
Now for that hole, I used a 3.5-inch hole saw, like this one here. If you were going to do it without this bezel piece, it would be 3.25 inch.
Is Ultimarc's instructions on their site says to use, to blind, do a little blind drill holes.
Just to mark the spots.
One thing I like to do, I noticed that this screwdriver's diameter is the exact diameter of the trackball. So instead of drilling a hole, I'm going to put this in place and then just push down to mark the wood. Now, the one thing to notice is which way on the trackball it says up, which in my case is that direction. So we're going to put that on here where it's going to be in its final position. We're going to look underneath to make sure that it's pretty much centered, which it is. And then we're going to make sure that this bottom line is even and that it is totally squared off, which it does look like it is. But before I mark those holes with a screwdriver, I'm going to take this marker and trace around the edge. Now this is also, besides making sure that this is keeping my trackball in place, it's also when I go to mount it that I know exactly where it should line up, which will make finding those little holes a little bit easier. So the next step, I'm going to take my I'm going to hold this in place. I'm going to take my screwdriver, just give it a little push just to mark the wood. Now, when I lift this off, you can see I got 4 little marks right there. Now, the next step from Ultimarc's site is to use a 1/4 inch drill bit to drill out just enough for these little gold pieces to fit in there. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to look at how much space I've got on the board. It's going to be close. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take a piece of electrical tape and I'm going to wrap that around the drill bit as a depth gauge. So I'm going to put these side by side. I don't want to go any deeper than that right there. So that is my depth gauge. So that will protect me from drilling right through the board. So I'm going to take these little screws off here. I'll load up my drill with this bit. And we're going to drill ever so slowly.
And they were talking about pilot holes initially with the screwdriver. Now this is the hole just to go a little bit deep, just to make room for the little gold part.
So we're going to go right here.
Dancing screwdriver.
And that's right there.
You didn't want to watch this part. A little boring. Make sure you get the dust out of the holes too. I'm just talking about making sure they're nice and flat. Now, I did run into a problem with the exact lineup on the device. You can see me using different tools to just nudge the screw over a little bit.
The next step is, again, we take our trackball right here. We find our up arrow. It's right here. We're lining it up with our original tracing. And actually, I can see through the holes where they are. And if not, you can lift up on this side just a little bit to make sure you're in the hole. And then here, we'll do the same thing. Right there. You're the same. Same thing right here.
So the thing is, if I can do this at all, you'll have no problem. I'm very bad when it comes to the wood aspect of this. But if I was able to make it work, you'll be able to make it work. And it definitely is much nicer than having that big thing on the table. Not fun to see myself going around really fast. That's where I was having an issue getting everything lined up just right, but I do get it figured out. A little piece of plexiglass just to nudge it to line it up. You don't want to over tighten these. You don't want to risk stripping or ripping the pieces out. Definitely get it snug. Gotta work on not being fat, but that's why I'm so exhausted there. Project.
Now, as you can see, it's on there. It's not going anywhere. And it's ready to be mounted now. There's still some other decorating things I need to do on this. But I doubt I'm going to take that trackball out again. The more you take it in and out, the weaker it'll become. And I got friends that like golden teeth, so I'm going to keep that nice and strong. Again, I'm just wiping off my dust. We'll flip this over. And it looks like one of the screw holes did try to push through. But again, I'm going to have a graphics cover that up, and the plexi is going to be there. So that won't be much of a problem. The bezel will fit right in there, and it will look good and ready for some golden tea.
So that's the video of actually getting it onto the board. And now let me turn on my top-down cam again. So you can see you've got the trackball here. Now, first thing I'm going to do is show you how to hook it up to the aim track device. Or not the aim-track device, to hook it up to the iPack I/O board. So we have the device here, and then we have two little 4-pin connectors. Now one only has 3 wires on it. But to hook this one up on the part here, you can see where it has player 3 or trackball on your card. So on the trackball section, now the one thing about that is you can either use player 3 pins or trackball pins. You can't use both functionalities at once. So you have to make a decision there. If you're going to use it for the trackball, then what you would do is the pin or the wires that have black, green, yellow, and red. The red is going to be close to this power connector. It's not going to be on this side. It's going to be on this side. And it is the topmost set of pins. Then underneath it, the red pin will also go on the other 5-volt. Now, you don't need any drivers or anything to do that. As long as you've got the iPack there, you'll be good to go. Let me pull up my notepad over here so you can see the cursor movement. So up here you can see we have our cursor right here. Now with the trackball, I go up, go down, go left, and I go right. You can see it's tracking. Now, as you can see, it's plugged in right there. Now, what I had said before, the downside to having it plug into the board directly is then you can't use the player 3 pins. But also, Ultimarc makes these little USB controllers. I'd recommend using the USB controllers because then you free up the pins on the board and you get its own USB connection just for the trackball. So we're going to then take these pins here, and just for reference, I like to pull up the Ultimarc website on my other screen here just so I can make sure I'm hooking up the pins just right. Because in the information for their trackball, they do show pictures of it being connected through USB. So the way this one works is, if you're looking at the board like this, there's 2 rows of pins, one on top, one on bottom. So we're going to consider the one up here on top and the one underneath on the bottom. So on the bottom, you want the black pin to be on this side, and the bottom pin underneath is empty. And then on top, just put it straight in there. Now I'm going to borrow the USB from my Ultimarc card. Make sure my tracking the same way. I got to make sure. Where's my notepad? Here's my notepad. Nope. Let me see. Nope, I hooked it up wrong. I thought I would do that again. Alright, so looking at the thing, purple's down here. Don't worry, once I got it the right way, then I'll show you. And this one is definitely underneath. Okay. So my original statement was correct. On the bottom row, the black wire must be on the top, and the red wire is on the bottom, and then there's one pin missing. There's one pin right down here underneath that's not connected. Then on top, the red pin goes to the very bottom, and the spot on the top where there is no pin, that stays empty. So up on here, okay, can I get this in the camera view like that? How could I do this? Okay, looking at the camera view, focus. So you can see there's the control board and the red pin on top, and then it's purple and green, or blue and purple. And then on the bottom side, there's the, if you're looking at it from the bottom, it goes black, green, yellow, red, and a pin hanging out all by itself. So again, when the cursor is on the little notepad screen, up, down, left, right. Now, I'm not going to go into configuring it for MAME. We've done enough videos on MAME where you should be familiar with that now. If not, just refer to my other videos. I take these headphones off as well. So you can refer to my other videos. They're just track options for the trackball. So that's how you can connect it through either method. Now for the rest of this demo, we are going to hook it up through the iPack board. And that's so that it can be plugged into the USB. So I can show you how the RGB hooks up. So that sucker's lit up now. Let me go back to my LED blinky. So, and I also have video series on LED blinky, so I don't need to show you that. But the one thing to note in the MAME INI file, it's going through its startup graphics. In the MAME INI file, you want to make sure that multi-mouse right here is set to 1. This will ensure that your mouse, your trackball, your light guns, whatever other mouse type devices you may have, don't get all detected as the same input. It has to be set as multi-mouse 1 so that the mouse can be detected as its own device, light guns can be detected as their own device, and the trackball can be detected as its own device. So you can see this sucker is lighting up right now because it's going through that standard sequence. So what will happen is when you have this thing connected and you have the LED installed, now the way you install the LED is you have these ring of LEDs right here, and you put them in the hole, and then there's a pre-drill hole in the board, and there's two pre-drilled holes in the bottom of the trackball. So you're going to find one of those holes, line it up, and then use one of the little screws that came with the trackball just to screw it in there. Now, I'm not going to worry about that for right now. I'm just showing you what it looks like lit up. You also want to be very careful with those wires because they can pop off, and then it's a pain to solder it back on. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to shut off the notepad, and I'm going to adjust that camera to make it a little less sensitive to light so that we can definitely see the trackball lighting up and turning down. So let's go and turn that down slightly. Wrong way. We'll turn it down this level. And now we're going to go into our, so as you can see, I'm now switching it from blue to green to red in LED Blinky software. And you can make any color you want. I'm just selecting the primary colors right now. But this really makes it a cool feature for, I'm going to shut that off for now. But you can see it's a really cool feature to be able to control the color of that bulb. Let me go back to auto exposure. There we go. So it allows you to control the color of the trackball. Again, I don't want to squish that. Now the LED is very simple to install. You just put it on one of the LED pins like any other LED in your arcade. Again, all those instructions are in the Ultimarc iPack video that I also have on my site. But then the only other thing is you have a single green or a black wire that you need to plug into one of the ground pins. And there's a couple of different ground pins you could use on the board, and they're labeled pretty well as GND. So as long as you plug in the black one and then plug in this like any other LED, then you can control this the way you can any other LED, which again is in plenty of my videos. Now the last thing I want to show you is I have a little test board here and a little test piece of plexi. So we're going to set this on top as if it was mounted underneath. So the bezel that they're talking about, this little ring, just goes right on top. It doesn't seal, it doesn't glue, anything like that. It just sits on top and you can slide it. And that's what it'll look like. So you can have all your own graphics and everything over here instead of a big black square, which a lot of the other trackballs have. Again, that flush mount feature is very nice. There's a couple things to note about this trackball. When you first receive it, they may be a little bit sticky. It just might feel a little bit rough. That's a lot of times due to the manufacturing process. It does loosen up over time. But what you can also do is take a little bit of dish soap and rub it on the top of the ball, or hand cream, rub it on top of the ball, and it'll loosen it up. Again, not too much, just a little bit. Another thing to note is that you do not want to mount this. When you're designing your control board, make sure your control board in the end is 3/4 of an inch or smaller. Originally my control board was 3/4 of an inch, but I decided to add a 1/4 inch plexiglass. And what happened was, in the bottom of the trackball, this bezel was almost up here. So the trackball itself was so recessed that it was hard to spin. So that's the reason why I have the video of me outside drilling holes and everything, is I'm redesigning my control board. So now I'm going with a 1/2 inch board and a 1/4 inch ply to get that 3/4. Now, there is a measurement on their website that is slightly less than 3/4 of an inch, and it would allow it to be perfectly flush. With 3/4 of an inch, you're probably going to be recessed about that much. It's very, very negligible how much difference it would make. So I'm good with that. I'm good with that, like 1/8 of an inch recession, because the button is still way high exposed. Anyway, so that's the thing, is make sure you're considering your depth of your board when you're designing it, not to go over 3/4 of an inch, so this will stay pretty flush. Also make sure to be aware that this will be tight in the beginning. It will loosen up over time, and if so, you can use hand cream or dish soap just a little bit. And then lastly, when handling this LED, be very careful, because these contact points can pop off fairly easy. I wouldn't really say easy, but they're not super strong. There's nothing reinforcing that connection. So if it does pop off, don't fret. Just strip it a little bit, solder very lightly, and get it back on there. But yeah, also lastly, I recommend going with the controller, the USB controller. When you're ordering the device, you can select with USB controller. Definitely consider doing that. Lastly, these connections are pretty short, so if you are going to plug into the iPack board, you can request or order extension 4-pin extension cables from Ultimarc's website. That'll allow you to make this cord longer and plug into the board. But again, personally, I'd say go with the USB controller. Hey guys, thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click like below. If you have any questions or comments, you may comment below or email mavericksarcade@gmail.com. Also, we are now streaming on Twitch, and this is our URL, so it's www.twitch.tv/mavericksarcade. Please check us out. We'll be playing some old classic PS1, PS2 games and other games that I just generally didn't play much, so I'm going to need your help. If these are games that you know, please jump online, make sure to tell me. And the way you can do that is either through the chat on Twitch, or we are now using Discord. So look on our main page, there's a URL for the Discord to join for that, and then you'll be able to join us in our live streams or when we're streaming on YouTube. That will allow us to share the chat on the screen and for you to communicate via voice over our show while we're recording. So please check it out. Looking forward to seeing you guys and actually getting to speak to you guys while we're doing our streams. Again, please consider subscribing, and thank you again for watching.